Is the hop like peeing or swallowing pee?
Somebody's peeing in.
Yeah.
Like the first time I got drunk was like on a Tuesday at 2 p.m. or something.
If you're gonna drink and drive, do what I do and ride a scooter.
That's where we get demonetized today.
I had a realization that politics is kind of a religion to a lot of people.
Oh yeah. They went to such lengths. They got the entire class into like a rumble during recess. Like just to try to beat me up. Welcome to another fascinating episode of Kitchen Sink Microscopy. I'm Casey Rochford, and we would love it if you'd like and share the video and subscribe to our channel, because that's the hip thing to do these days.
Well, we're on. Just kidding. I'm Eric Rosenblatt, and don't forget we write our own music, which is available on iTunes and Spotify and stuff. So stick around to the end of the show and you'll get a little bit of a taste of one of our songs. And if you're feeling a little bit adventurous, check out our website at ksmvidcast.com for news, information, and more. So, Casey, what do you want to talk about today?
I thought it would be kind of a fun... I don't know if it's necessarily a change in format to the show per se, but I was thinking it would be kind of fun if we tackled a different sort of topic than we normally do.
Okay.
And that topic I'm thinking of is kind of comic book related. Which, you know, isn't necessarily like something that we would hyper focus on normally, but one of my favorite things in comic books was always like the origin story of a villain or something, or you know how they got their superpowers or whatever. So I thought, wouldn't it be fun if we did a Kitchen Sink Microscopy origin story and like talk about how we came to get our individual philosophies and how the show coalesced and stuff. You know, I just thought, you know, because something a fan had brought up once is like, you know, like you guys talk so much and we know what your opinions are and stuff, but really like to learn more about you. And so an origin story, why not?
No. Yeah. Wow, that could be actually pretty interesting.
Yeah,
I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like a current event or a philosophical thing. It's more of like just a storytelling, I guess. But
yeah, and sure, I think I would hope that something like that would be interesting. People would be interested in hearing that.
Yeah. And I mean, it can basically be like a two-way interview, really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I always believe that kind of one's perception of the world around you, you know, how you feel about things is kind of based on, it's derived from like the sum total of your experiences. Those experiences kind of mold you and direct you and turn you into the person you're eventually going to become. So yeah, I think if people agree or disagree with any of our views, then that would be enlightening, I suppose. Yeah.
Our name is Legion, for we are many.
Can't get away with making an episode without at least one Red Dwarf reference in there.
Always not one somewhere.
Yeah.
So I've actually, like, when this fan brought this up, I thought it was a really excellent idea because as long as we've known each other, what, 20 years or more?
Maybe more than that, yeah.
I've never actually known a whole lot about, you know, who you were before I met you, like what it was that shapes, you know, the way you feel about economics or whatever. You know, it can be like our philosophies that we typically discuss on this show, but more from a background standpoint. Like,
yeah,
we got to thinking where we're thinking. So,
yeah, that'd be interesting. And sure, wow, this is this is going to be quite the storytelling session, I think.
yeah.
Hopefully, you haven't had too much beer to tell a proper story, but maybe more beer equals better stories.
I can't say that I haven't been drinking. But well, drinking. This is something I remember from when we were roommates in 2003. At that point, like, we had beers together and stuff, but I never saw you drink to excess, like more than a beer or two. But now there have been times where we've, you know, imbibed quite a bit and tried to record a response to an anti-vaxxer or
that was
on the cutting room floor.
That was a rather interesting episode. Yeah. Well, yeah, I've kind of always been like a coffee person growing up, and maybe some other things here and there, just experimental. But I do like IPAs, I've found. So, and wine.
Yeah, I mean, some people like to have someone pee in their mouth, so I mean, it's not too different from like.
What are you saying, man? Space dust. It's good. Yeah.
Is that what they're calling it? Oh, the beer.
The beer, yeah. It's space dust, yeah.
That was a cold.
Although wait, there's hold on. There's like a hop, like, is the hop like peeing or swallowing pee?
Somebody's peeing in.
Yeah. So maybe there's something. You got something there. Yeah. It's, well, you know, people change over time, and I definitely prefer dark beers, but space dust is just it's so good. It's really good. Yeah.
So when was your like first drink though? You know, not like a sip from dad's beer, I mean, but like,
oh, okay,
like a drink that you poured or had poured for you and you finished.
Well, you know, probably like my 21st birthday.
Really?
Yeah.
Legality, huh?
Yeah, but just because I was just like not really into it that much at the time. So, you know, friends of mine, I visited their house and they're like, "Oh, you're 21 now, you know, here, have a drink." And it was some kind of, I don't remember what it was, like a rum or something. I feel like it was like a butterscotch something. But yeah, I didn't really it didn't hit me, you know, like I didn't care that much for it at the time. And I've never been like a hard liquor kind of person. I see you're looking at a bottle of liquor over there.
When you said rum, I was like, I just happen to have rum here, and it might even be because rum was my first too, and I thought it might even be the same rum, you know, the same brand, because this is one somebody got me, and I'm just trying to get through it because it's more of a cheap rum, but it's anyway, I was just gonna start rambling on about rum for
it's all right.
I like rum.
Oh man. Yeah.
Like drinking for me was like, tried the wine and beer and stuff, sips here and there or whatever, maybe a small glass of wine or something, as a kid, as a treat or whatever. But no, like when I first, like the first time I got drunk was like on a Tuesday at 2 p.m. or something. And I was probably 16, I guess. 17, wow. Maybe. 16. Yeah, and I this is so terrible. Our friend Aaron, he was there with us, and I drove us all over to this place, and I was like, I'm gonna give you my keys, Aaron, okay? If we're getting drunk, don't let me drive. He's like, all right. And we get drunk on this Ron Virgin rum. That's what it was called. It was so cheap. Anyway, we get drunk on this Ron Virgin rum, and Ron Virgin, what a weird name. And then all of a sudden, it's like 4:50, and he's like, shit, dude, I gotta be at work at 5. Can you give me a ride? And he throws my keys to me, and I'm like, okay.
Oh.
And so I'm like, it's rush hour, right? I'm like driving down the wrong side of the road, and there's cars coming and stuff, and I'm trying to get him to work.
Oh my God.
I was like, oh shit, that's a bad start to my career of drinking.
Yeah, well, it's like that time when you and I went to that bar with Lou, like, and we're leaving, and you're like, is that a cop? And I'm like, no, that's a Cadillac. Oh man, yeah. But hey, kids, don't drink and drive. It's stupid. It's a bad idea. The more you know.
Right. Yeah. No, don't. Yeah. Don't take our laughter at all the awesome things that happen during the drunk driving time as a good thing. It's not. So
yeah. If you're gonna drink and drive, do what I do and ride a scooter, because you're probably not gonna hurt anybody, except yourself. Yeah. Oh man.
You can drive. Here's how you do it.
Oh.
That's where we get demonetized today.
Probably so. So, well, I mean, what a start to our legacy, I guess, is like talking about all that. Oh man.
But yeah, so it's not all about drinking stories. I suppose we could move on to more like philosophical stuff, maybe. Like,
yeah.
What do you think led you to what do you call it? Voluntarism?
Voluntarism, yeah.
That sort of political camp or whatever. Like what kind of shaped your experiential route to the kitchen sink?
Or down the drain, as some might say. It's something that happened over the course of decades. I was raised in a Christian Republican family, like always. Early days, that was kind of how I was. And as time went on, I started like questioning all that, and man, whoa, okay, there's a lot of ground to cover here. Like, particularly in the religious aspect, like I still consider myself to be very, very spiritual. Like I'm a spiritual person. Like I practice witchcraft, like loosely, and other such things, mostly for fun and self growth. Yeah, like to me, I don't see it as something like you do to control the world around you. It's more about like self-reflection and control of yourself, right? So. Yeah. Kind of like meditation, I guess. Same sort of thing. It's just meditation.
Yeah, I mean, meditation is part of so many religions. Prayer is basically a meditation.
Yeah. And so when I was a kid, I was like really into ninjas, and studied all kinds of stuff, got all kinds of books on ninjas and everything, and learned about Buddhism. And so that sounded like a really interesting philosophy to me. so I kind of went down that road, and that sort of ended up leading me to, um, like, I don't want to say it was like agnosticism for the most part. Like, I'm kind of a person who feels something in a lot of different religions and spiritual philosophies. Like, I like them all, and I think they all have something to offer. Um, and the closer I got to atheism, um, the more sense it made, I guess. So it's like at this point, currently where I stand, I'm like atheist agnostic. Um, and so watching videos and reading things from atheists, kind of talking about their like the logic of atheism, and how you can like, I guess basically things talking about those particular philosophies sort of led me to think like, well, you should apply that to your entire life, right? If it makes sense in religion, it should make sense everywhere. You should be logical. Yeah, be a Spock. Like, you have your emotions sometimes, but you have logic as well. Logic is very important. Science is very important. Evidence is very important, and proof and things like that. So I started then reflecting on my political beliefs, which at the time were kind of like jumbled all over the place. It's like a little bit of everything. Um, I suppose I kind of went from being like a diehard Republican, right? Born and raised as a Republican, to being a libertarian. And the more I thought about that, I was like, well, that actually makes a lot of sense, right? You know, I couldn't find any faults with it, and applying logic to that kind of thing. It's like, well, a lot of that makes sense. But then I kept going further and further, and then it's kind of like it led me to, like, I guess a political atheism, where at a certain point, and I don't know exactly when this happened, but at a certain point, I had a realization that politics is kind of a religion to a lot of people.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Just earlier today, I was thinking to myself, wow, I used to be, I don't even know if this is a word. I used it though. I said, I can't believe I used to be so apolitical, you know. And
yeah,
it is like atheist,
yeah,
the way that you and I tend to think about things is quite a bit switched off in the terms of like what camp you're in, that intensity. Like we care less about labels than about ideas.
yeah. Like the being like tribalism, right? You've got teams. There's these different factions fighting against each other. Like, I look at that from the outside, and it makes no sense to me. I'm just like, what the hell? Like, I, I see the craziness over politics and stuff like that, and like, I care about as much who the president is as I care about who the pope is at this point. Like, it does. I mean, obviously there's an effect, right? But it doesn't grip me the way that it grips some people. Where, like, there are people who are religious people, right, who really care about the pope and what the pope has to say and all this stuff. They hang on their every word, and it's like, so basically I just applied the same logic that led me to atheism to everything else, and politics in particular. And it's kind of like, well, you know I'm a pacifist. Like, okay, I'm an armed pacifist, but I would only use force of arms in defense. And I oh man, okay. I feel like there's so many. I gotta collect my thoughts here, because there's a lot there. Um,
I remember when you said you were born into like a Republican family and stuff. It made me think, when I was growing up in the 80s, I don't know if this was just my house, but I didn't really see a lot of this on the news either. It was almost as if Democrats and Republicans actually got along with each other back then.
They did. Yeah.
But it just
People could actually have
of history to just kind of go back to that, but no, it feels like we're so far from that now.
Yeah, like people had conversations. You could go to a Thanksgiving dinner with family who were both Democrat and Republican, and it really didn't matter. Like people might have a discussion or an argument about something, but no, it never came to blows, right? Nobody unfriended people over their political views.
Yeah.
And,
Kennedy and his vice president were Democrat Republican.
Yeah.
I don't think we've seen that since, except maybe Ford or something. But
it used to be that you would, I think the runner-up would become vice president, which I think is actually kind of cool. Like that's an interesting idea.
That makes more sense than what we do now, to be honest. Like now it creates such a divide down the middle.
No, you're right. It does create a divide. And that's the kind of thing, like being a voluntarist, I'm just like, I care about people and I care about the world and society and things like that. And I don't want to inject politics, this kind of artificial construct into things any more than I want to inject religion into things. I think it does more damage. It divides people. It separates people. When if you never brought it up, we're actually a lot more similar than we are different. And a lot of people want the same things. They just have different methods on how to achieve those things. But politics, just like religion, tends to pit people against each other and create this kind of reactionary, defensive kind of thing or offensive kind of thing where people are just at each other's throats over the label. And I think that does a lot of harm. That's why nothing ever gets done.
Yeah.
If we just said, hey, you know what? We care about homelessness or the environment or whatever. Let's figure out a way to solve it, and talked about different ways, we'd probably be there 100 years ago.
Yeah.
With a lot less wars.
I mean, that's kind of the core of that thing I'm trying to draft up about, like a new way of doing government. It's like things just really have to change. If the way you're doing it consistently shows that it's not working very well, it's not really improving, it's not really crashing either, so it's just good enough to make you think it's good enough.
Yeah, stagnating basically.
Yeah.
But no, what you're saying is a scientific process.
Right.
You're evaluating things and testing it and saying, does this work? Has this worked? And making adjustments accordingly. That's an engineering and scientific kind of way to do things, which I think we should. I totally agree on that. Wow. That's wow, we like rapidly went down into some really interesting territory.
Yeah, that just kind of went from like drinking stories into political and religious philosophies.
Yeah. Oh, totally. I'd probably be a little bit more articulate about this if I hadn't had as many beers as I've had. So maybe I'll make a separate video at some point talking about this. Like, I'm going to go back and edit this and be like, oh man, what the hell was I saying?
No, yeah, I think it's interesting trying to do this to kind of explain how we think the way we do, because it's also kind of fun to figure that out about yourself too.
Yeah,
the introspection, like what did get me to thinking where I'm at right now.
And I think that's actually a really healthy thing that a lot of people don't do. Like, self-reflection, kind of like, how did I get where I am? Why do I think the way I do? I think a lot of people don't even ask that question. That's half the problem, really.
Yeah. You know, I'm like applying for jobs right now, and that gets you thinking about, um, you know, all these like gushy, mushy things about your motivation and personality and what you would do in situation X or Y, and man, I was going so deep in explanation about all that crap, I completely forgot where I was going with it.
Well, we can come
Just
back to it.
finish this cheap rum over here.
Well, so since I kind of explained how a little bit, like I guess I should add in that one of the things that kind of led me down that path was hacking and cracking and coding and that whole community, the like anarchistic, all information should be free kind of philosophy, which was a long time ago, but I was like in middle school when that happened, and it really it grabbed me very strongly, and to this day I still feel strongly about that philosophy. Like, open source is a very valuable thing, and sometimes breaking the law is not necessarily bad, and it can actually be constructive from a security standpoint. But yeah, it. So I'm curious now how you got to your point where you stand right now, because I think when I met you, let's see. I mean, this is before we started writing music and stuff like that, and you were like leather jacket, long hair, and I think you had the Subaru, maybe. Was that a
No, you've ridden in the infamous van.
okay? Get in the van. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it goes back a little bit further. Yeah. Um, but
that's like 2000 at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because I've noticed that you've evolved a lot in the intervening years, and yeah. So what kind of things? I don't know. Tell your story, I guess.
I mean, I guess jumping off from the point where we met, where I was long hair and leather and get in the van and all that stuff. What led me there was actually kind of the seed, and it was getting picked on like hard in Catholic school.
Oh, I've been there too.
Yeah.
By the way, yeah.
Yeah, and I talk about this in my book a little bit, but I don't know. I don't think I really went into great detail about it, but there were these 3 or 4 dudes that could figure out, the button to push, right? And then they find it, and then they pushed it incessantly. And that was nerd.
Oh yeah.
But they went to such lengths. They got the entire class into like a rumble during recess, like just to try to beat me up.
Wow.
And I had a few friends that like jumped in, and like it got when I say rumble, or like people bled, right? There were these like crappy refrigerators that would always freeze the little chocolate milk cartons. People were chucking frozen chocolate milk cartons at each other, like these sharp, pointy edges.
Oh my God, like food fight, right?
All because they wanted to beat me up and make me feel like shit and call me a nerd.
Wow. Why would somebody do that? And a follow-up question, do you know where these people are today?
Yeah. Uh,
And are they, top dog kind of people?
um, so one of them turned into like a hippie that like you wouldn't expect him to hurt a fly, and yet he spit on me in in front of the teacher, and nothing happened. Like people just kept walking by and spitting on me.
Oh, geez.
And that guy turned into a fucking hippie. Anyway,
Hmm.
and there was
Well, I
another.
think this is actually just as a little like note. This is important for kids to understand that like things change and
Mhm.
people act weird because of hormones and I don't know. You're growing up, so everybody's a fucking idiot at that point. So yeah, don't freak out too much, and by God, do not kill yourself.
Oh no.
Okay, don't do that. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Well, I mean, like all that basically was experience that built me to that intimidating looking person. Grew my hair out, put a bunch of leather on, drove a dumpy ass looking van full of like tools that were more like weapons.
So you got your ninja stuff started early on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've always liked ninjas too, and we called it Bad Bax's Battle Wagon because there were 67 different possible weapons in there. There were some at everyone's reach, and all like 8 seats there were, or whatever. This was a huge van. Yeah, that's what I became as a defense mechanism, and so that being trodden down, I think, and seeing like a kid get shot down the street by a cop when I was really young.
Mm-hmm.
I think those things really set the tone for where I went politically, religiously. I mean, religiously for sure, because I thought, like this is supposed to be a Catholic school. We're supposed to be following the whole peaceful Jesus thing, right? Like
yeah, that does like blow my mind. Like how some of the most horrific horror stories I've heard about school come from Catholic schools.
yeah,
Which is like, Jesus, hello, do you not read the New Testament? I don't understand that.
yeah.
Yeah, I went to a Christian school, which I guess fortunately wasn't Catholic, and it wasn't so bad. It was a little too Jesus-y for my taste, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
As far as defense mechanisms, like I totally understand that. Um, essentially showing potential aggressors that you're dangerous, right? Like that avoids all this stuff, and avoiding a fight is like actually very important.
Oh yeah. I used that to my advantage in high school actually, because that look worked. Case in point, I was backing up Aaron. Aaron always ends up in these ones where we're getting in trouble. I was backing him up for a fight.
Wait a minute, wasn't Aaron the source of a fight at our CD release party over that girl?
Oh, maybe.
And that bouncer guy like came in and broke up the fight. Like, anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, but anyway, yeah, I was backing him up for a fight with a buddy or two, and they're kind of like nose to nose or whatever, and I'm paying attention. I'm supposed to be the backup, so I'm paying attention to their backup. I'm basically like linebackering, this one dude, and I'm focused in on him, and I hear him say to the guy next to him, "Watch out for Casey, he's a black belt." And I had never taken martial arts at that point, and I was like, good.
Nice. Nice.
I'll let them think that,
Totally. It's all about perception,
yeah.
right? If you can trick your opponent into believe, well, dude, you're like old school art of war there, right?
Okay.
Like appearing to be strong or, appearing to be weak or whatever to be able to manipulate your opponent.
And use whatever you have around you as your weapon, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You don't need like weapons, like ninja weapons. You should be able to take a pencil and like kill 100 people with that if you're a real ninja. Well, real ninjas use lasers. Remember that bumper sticker?
Yep.
Because they would. Yeah, my method for dealing with the whole nerd thing was like when I got into high school, I started connecting with like the rocker people and the gangbangers, like because I did art, so I could draw things, and everybody wanted like skulls or they wanted old English lettering with their gang name or whatever. So I had like kind of an eclectic community of people backing me up. Like if anybody messed with me, well, okay, you can go with these guys with the leather jackets, or you can go with these guys over here from K Street that are gonna rip your rip you a new asshole. So yeah, and I guess that's kind of the more or less peaceful way to resolve that. At least from my perspective. But yeah, art, you can use art to diffuse a situation, I suppose. And making friends with Russians too. That was another thing. Because we had a bunch of Russians in our school, and whoo man, don't cross them. Just saying.
Yeah. And then those defense mechanisms like failed me finally at like the next shaping moment, and that's when I got cancer. It's like, oh, I couldn't fake that out. So now I have to deal with this, and it sobered me up a little bit.
Yeah, you went through it twice.
Yeah, and I feel like I got really, I mean, I've always tried to be introspective, but I feel like I really took a 180 in the following couple of years, just philosophically and emotionally and stuff. Like that was just this huge bubble in my timeline, you know, where I kind of missed my 20s, and it was weird and surreal, and I feel like I look 10 or 15 years older than I am from the situation, but I feel 10 or 15 years younger because I kind of tried to pick right up where I was, you know, pick up where I left off once I recovered. And by then, all my friends were like getting ready to be complaining about back pains in their 30s and stuff like that. And then I'm like, now let's go out, have fun, drink. So,
yeah.
there was this weird miss and all that, and then like all the medical and other kind of bills that came from that piled down on me and bankrupted me. And so that combination of like being picked on and, you know, seeing corrupt authority and you know, going through cancer and all that stuff, and being bankrupted from it, kind of pushed me toward that whole idea of democratic socialism. Because it's like, if you have ever been that ill, I don't know how you could not be in favor of everybody having easy and immediate access to something that could save their life. Like, you know, like at whatever cost, you know, like that was so amazing that I even barely got through it having insurance and being backed up by the government insurance. Even, you know, like I had 2 insurances and it was still failing.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh, it works me up. It drives me crazy. And I think those are like the 3 pivotal things that are like my tripod or whatever, you know, that form my base. You know, everything's kind of built upon satisfying those particular values.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Like I have my own thoughts, um, but I feel like we probably don't need to like debate over things. But I think all in all, our experiences kind of landed us like with the same sort of perspective on things, just kind of like from a different angle.
Yeah.
Because I totally get where you're coming from. Like it maybe there's differences in terms of like methodology or something like that. But yeah, I too recognize a lot of the same issues, and for a lot of the same reasons. Now I haven't gone through cancer twice like you have, so there's that. But
Yeah, and that, I mean, what do they say? Like 50% of people will probably get cancer in their lifetime. It's something that can definitely happen. Like, I mean, your odds are effectively flipping a coin.
mm-hmm.
uh,
That's true. Yeah. Oh man. Wow. Jeez. And oh man, this is
but then what? So it's not all political and stiff. What got you into music?
okay. So I'll explain this. And it's actually rather interesting. So I in high school, well, actually, it started in middle school. I was into programming. So to give you an example of how into programming I was, kids at the time were writing notes, passing notes back and forth in class in middle school and stuff. I used steno notebooks to write code because well, okay. Sixth grade, my friend Corey, he's like, "Hey, you should come to the computer lab." And I'm like, computers, that's stupid. I'm a Nintendo guy. Like, I like consoles. Like, I don't want to mess with computers. And he's like, no, 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 you should go. So after probably weeks or so of pressuring me to go into the computer lab at lunch, I finally went, and I was sold. These were Apple IIs, by the way. So this is like a computer lab in a middle school full of Apple IIs. I thought it was the awesomest thing ever. So I signed up to take a basic computer class taught by an ex-shop teacher. So at that point, I was completely immersed in programming and computers and electronics. Like, it was a huge thing. So I took classes. I did all kinds of things. I was writing code in class. Like I remember I was writing code on a notebook, and the teacher, I think I was in French class or something like that, and the teacher came around. I was like, "Show me that notebook," and I showed her, and she's like, "Huh? Well, I have no idea what this is. Here you go," because it was a bunch of basic code and stuff like that. So I was like really into that. And in high school, I decided that I was going to start a video game company because I was all into video games, like making games. I have like a extensive collection of video games that I've made. Pretty crappy, actually. Just run of the mill kinds of things, like no FPSs or anything like that. Nothing epic.
Was that Mind Duster or whatever?
Oh, Starduster. Yeah. That I was writing while we were running the business. Yeah. The little like mining planets game and stuff. I've improved that a bit over the years.
I was actually hooked on playing that. Like, it was actually really, really good.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So I wanted to do that. And like, so I needed resources for games, and I figured, okay, you've got like sound effects, which I was pretty good at dealing with. You got graphics, which I could kind of do unless it's people. I'm not very good at people. And music. And I didn't want to use the music that was out there. I wanted to create like something new. And so I started creating music. I think it was the composer for the Ad-Lib sound card or something like that. It's an old black and white program. That was actually where I started writing music. And then I used Mod Edit and let's see, started going into more advanced programs like Scream Tracker, Impulse Tracker, Mod Plug, which I think I taught you how to use.
Yeah.
And it I realized once I started writing songs for these video games, it's like I like writing music more than I like coding. This is an expression tool. Like I can express myself like I can through drawing pictures or painting or something like that, in ways I could never do before. And it affected people. That's the thing. It's like when I watched somebody cry listening to one of my songs, I was like, oh, that's what I want to do.
Nice.
So it.
Which song was that?
Oh, I don't. It was like in the 90s. So I don't remember, but
On next, VH1's Behind the Music, Altair.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So in a roundabout way, it's basically like video games. My desire to create video games led me to music, I guess. Yeah. How about yourself?
I've always really been connected to music, right? And growing up, my dad, he like majored in music in college. Like he was.
Oh yeah, he's like a really good vocalist, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like he's like he has a actually pretty similar voice. Like people are gonna say, well, that's not weird. You and your dad have, but I'm adopted, right? So like talking about my adopted dad and I having a similar voice. It's really baritone, but he could always get the tenor range as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he had like two good octave ranges to deal with, and just his style, and he would teach me breathing techniques and stuff, and like like he had a little fun game for me where I would try to like move a candle from across the room with just my breath and stuff. So like, even though I've always been kind of a shy singer, like, which has been slowly melting away over decades.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. When I was super young, I was really into singing, and then as I started like appreciating how good my dad sounded, I think I started to feel like intimidated, like, oh, I'm not gonna be that good. And but I was listening, I was practicing to myself, and I would, just like your coding thing where you're just sitting and writing in a notepad, I got so good like messing around with teaching myself the piano that I had all the notes like memorized. I could hear the sound in my head and know which note it was. And so I would sit there with sheet music in church, and instead of paying attention to the priest, I'd be writing music from my head.
That's a very Beethoven thing to do, actually.
It did feel that way. I mean, the stuff I was writing wasn't like put together, like I didn't have musical theory knowledge so much then, but it was still kind of an impressive thing to experience, to like be able to hear from memory something and know which note it was. And I don't know if I'm even explaining that. You might know what I'm talking about, right?
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. And I think we're kind of on the same page in that regard. Like, being able to essentially imagine music mentally, which apparently is not that common.
I guess not. Yeah, and it's hard to describe, but
Yeah.
like from that, like I said, I would teach myself some piano, and I got into saxophone in like elementary school up through a little bit in middle school.
Do you still have your saxophone? Do you?
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Can you still play it?
I probably could, but I'm gonna need a new reed. It's 25 years old.
Oh yeah.
I'm not gonna put my lips on that.
uh,
I'm not gonna wrap my lips around 25-year-old wood.
uh,
That can't go
think
wrong.
I think a sax is a pretty cool instrument. Like, yeah. Like me, I'm not a music player. I've never been that keen on performing. More about like writing songs, which I think then kind of segues nicely into Altair.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we met and hung out years before, but at some point we were like, hey, we should start a band. And
you already had the Altair name as like a solo performer, basically.
yeah,
not even a performer, just a solo artist or whatever.
yeah, like writing songwriter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had that for years, but and I tried when I went to Pierce College, I tried to create this like electronic jazz band, I guess, maybe kind of like blues. And I collected a bunch of people together who were really quite talented. But it was difficult to coordinate, and yeah, as you could imagine. But we so I don't remember exactly when it was that we decided we should collaborate musically.
I think it was when we were discussing the Mana Machine, and one of us probably, I think I might have said like this would make a really cool concept album, and like Queensryche or Rush or whatever, and then you were kind of like, well, I write electronic music, and I was kind of like, I've always wanted to learn that. Like I always wished there was like a program, and I just thought there wasn't. And then you were like, here's this program, and I was like, well, hold, what?
Yeah, I remember you were like sending me mod files over a modem. Yeah. And then so over a modem, and then I would like take them and put them on a floppy and transfer them over to the computer at my shop that I worked at, and then burn them to CD at one speed, $1,600 CD burner. Yeah. And then we go and listen to them and go get tea at Bertolino's or something like that. Yeah.
Remember the very early cut of You'll Never that I wrote it on ModPlug, and I had dial-up internet, no CD burner on my computer. I had a standalone CD burner, which like I don't even think those are a thing anymore.
No.
But so I would write that, have to dial up modem, send it 2 miles down the street to you.
Mm-hmm.
Then you burned it on your computer, drove it over, gave me the CD. Then I put the CD in this karaoke boombox, plugged a mic in, recorded vocals onto a cassette tape, and then I had to take that cassette tape and burn that to a CD on the standalone CD burner, and then take that CD and put it back in the karaoke boombox so I can record the backing vocals onto a different cassette tape, and then burn that cassette tape, and that was the final product.
Yeah, I seem to remember like the song itself was like one channel, like the left channel, and then the vocals were like the right channel. It was like a 2-track kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And it sounds like it's playing on a radio player inside of a sock, in a 1940s mansion. Like, I don't know.
But I mean, that's actually kind of cool. Like there's a certain charm with things like that. Like my first song that I recorded, I didn't have a way of connecting the computer to a tape deck. Tape deck, by the way, their CD burners were like a pipe dream at that point. So I wanted to make a cassette of my music, but I didn't have a way of connecting the computer to the cassette deck because the cassette deck didn't have a line in, and I didn't have all the connectors, and I didn't have enough credit at Radio Shack. So what I did, I took the computer and took the audio out, ran it through an amplifier, had a speaker inside of a cardboard box with pillows around it with a microphone. The microphone was then connected to the mic in on this like shitty, like garbage console cassette deck phonograph radio thing. And I recorded it into that. And of course it was like always on automatic gain control. So every time there was like a bass drum, it would like get all quiet and come back. And oh my God. Yeah. How far we've come. The kids these days, they don't know how good they have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember some weird idiosyncrasies about cassettes. Like when I was a kid, I would try to mess around with my dad's guitar a little bit, and there was this tape recorder, and I just grab random tapes and cassette tapes and stick them in there and record on them, and then I'd go back and listen, and it would be all like wah 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 wah.
Oh.
And I was like, "Hey Dad, what's going on with this?" And he was like, "Oh, you recorded over one of my code cassettes. Like, I guess you put computer code on cassette tapes."
Yeah, Commodore 64 had that actually.
Yeah.
In the early days. Yeah, games and programs were on cassette.
Yeah, that's how old I am.
Yeah, I remember the same thing too. And I'm older than you, even though you're older than me. Yeah, you know, cassettes are actually coming back. Mm-hmm. There are bands producing cassette tape albums today. Like in 2020, it's a thing. And vinyl, of course. Well, I mean, everybody knows vinyl's around. We'll probably have to release a vinyl at some point.
That would be cool. Yeah, vinyl's definitely got that nice warm sound, but cassette tapes are actually, when they're in good shape, a really good, solid, like levelized sound. You know,
yeah.
You have to really think about it to notice how good it is, and that's how good it is.
Yeah. Well, as long as you're using like metal tapes and not like that ferrochromium bullshit cheapo, like you get it from Texaco cassettes.
I remember you had this one very special, super expensive cassette.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh my God. If I remember, I'll put a picture of it in here. It had gold leaf as the, like, there was a little like transfer panel that you could write on the cassette in gold leaf. It had like a solid brass oval in the middle of it. It was like, it cost me like $17 in 1992. So adjusted for inflation, that's a fucking expensive cassette. One cassette. Oh, and it had parchment for the insert. Like, wow.
That is pretty damn fancy.
It was nice. I still have it down there.
Wasn't it probably like solid black too? Like
it's kind of like a charcoal gray. Yeah. And oh yeah, that, if I remember, I'll take some pictures, and it's probably got some old stuff that I did with the Casio keyboard on it or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, man.
Yeah, and then we were like, hey, we have really awesome conversations, and we have all this like bank of decades and decades of collaborative and individual electronic music that is really awesome. Like, how can we marry these two things? And this show was born.
Yeah, exactly. I think this show came from some kind of Facebook conversation, where I just saw that, like, the conversation was so awesome. This should be like a radio show or something like that. We should have a podcast or a YouTube channel, and well, now we have one.
Yeah, and it was so funny because, like, when we started getting really serious about doing this thing, we were going to have a third to begin with. And so, fun bit of trivia, our theme song, the title is Trinity. And Eric titled it that way because there's going to be three of us.
Yep. Yeah.
So now the song is called Trinity, but it's always been just the two.
Exactly. That's an interesting point. Maybe there's an irony there or something.
Oh, just the two and my dong.
Or Floyd.
Trinity.
Floyd.
I call Floyd my dong. Yeah, it's
cat sticks. Who knows? We just got demonetized, by the way.
Shouldn't have grabbed this beer.
Yeah, I think this has been a pretty good project. Like, yeah, I mean, every week we've done a new episode, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, like even through like tough situations, like when I moved across the country, we somehow were still able to put these episodes out every week. Like, I think I was late one day and put an episode out on a Saturday, and that was like the only glitch. Like that was pretty good.
Yeah, this channel's coming along pretty good. I mean, well, we've been going for like an hour.
Oh yeah.
More beer. I'd like to, if anybody has questions or wants to know more about what we've talked about, I'd like to hear those questions in the comment section, and we might respond to those. Yeah.
We'll respond.
We'll respond. That got real dark. Yeah. Oh man.
Floyd's taking a bath in the background.
Oh yeah. He's like, I don't care about this. I'm just waiting for the time when I can get into the bed and knead and get face rubs and all the good stuff. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, this is actually like a really good topic. I feel like there's a lot of things that could have been said, but hopefully we said all that needed to be well enough.
I think there was a path to the show and a little backstory to the main characters. So
yeah.
Anyway, it was fun.
Should we include the ego stories at the end or not?
Those are pretty good.
Yeah. So for those that don't know, just as an aside, the ego stories were when we started the band, the group. We emailed back and forth a bunch of these stories about us as like gods. Like we were way more awesome than we actually are.
Well, it started out as like just little stories, like fake news articles about us headlining with like some grand show or being #1 in Japan or something.
Mm-hmm.
But then it like morphed and evolved and didn't stop. It was like a cancer. It just got more and more ridiculous with each story.
Yeah, it was like we're saving the universe, like everyone. Yeah. Oh, that was
The Mecha Pope.
Oh man. Yeah. Old school angel fire, man. Well, maybe we'll include those in the our actual website just for fun. If there's enough likes, get us to, I don't know, 100 likes, and we'll put the ego stories on the website. That's a small bar. Yeah. Oh man, this is good.
Well, I guess there's always stories that we could go into, but we could save it for another episode.
Yeah, I think this is a good point. Like this, it's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let us know if you know us well enough yet.
Yeah, well, I think that's about all the time we have for today.
Yeah. Thanks for deep sink diving with us into deep sink diving.
And our origin story, the origin of kitchen sink microscopy and Altair with the small I, not the star, or the cookie or the computer. Yeah, there's a bunch of Altairs.
The Altair cookie.
Altair cookies. I had like a huge box full of those things. Oh man. Anyway, if anybody remembers Altair cookies, yeah. I don't know what to say. I hope you enjoyed them. Yeah, so have a good night, everybody.
You'll never feel the